restitch it then, where we'll be starting is in this edge here. So I'm going to start down this side. We've got two bits there, remember, because that is the open side. So I'm going to start around here. I'm going to stitch this, work my way around, all the way around here. This part here is going to be the whole lot, all the way through until I come up to there. That's going to be probably 2 or 3 runs of stitching, depending on how long my arms are and what we're going to do. So we'll have a look at some of this and what we're going to use. So my normal thread that I use is this one, but that thread is going to be a bit too thick for that. If it was my own one, I'd be using bigger stitching and everything else on it because it makes it through. That's my design. This is a bit finer, so we've got a different type of thread. So same sort, but it's a little bit finer. I don't really use these very often. I normally spare my time swearing because it takes me longer to thread a needle with this. And I'm also going to use some smaller needles. So again, these are the size needles I would normally use. What I'm going to use are these needles. So you've got, remember, these are 1s and these are 4s. So can't remember who makes the needles now, but that's ones I tend to use all the time. So the 1s are the big ones, 2s are my common one as well, and then 4s are my smallest ones. So they're the sort of things we could do. If you want to make something, this was one of our pieces I made when I was first at college. It's quite a pain in the bum to make, hence the reason they make us do it at college, but it still works and I've had it for God knows how many years now. So it's still there. Alright, let's figure this. Now, first thing we need to do is figure out our length of thread. Now there are ways you can use it, you can use formulas to work it all out. I've done this for quite some time, I know roughly how far I can get, but in this it's going to be a long old run, so I'm just going to use, it's two-handed stitching, so I'm going to use 2 hands, if you like. I'm going to be a full arm's length on both sides. So I'm going to grab one end, and this is going to be off camera for you. I'm going to pull that out, and essentially what I've done is take my arms out as long as they are, and I've got a piece of thread that is that long. One of the reasons I hate this thread is as soon as you cut it, it does that, whereas the other one sticks together. So there's our thread. Can't really see that because it's not the best of threads to be able to show up against black leather and black thread, but that's my thread. Now what I need is one end. This is pre-waxed, but it's not got much wax on it, so I need to get it through really quite a small hole on the end of there. So first thing I'm going to do, this is just a bit of beeswax. I'm just going to rub on the end of there, and all I'm doing is the pressure of my thumb against it or my fingers against it is enough to melt that wax down to get it to go through the needle. Now, little tip on stitching needles, threading needles, whatever you want to do with them. They're blunt, they are a bit of a point, but they're a blunt needle because they're a saddler's needle. But the hole is not round and that thread is round, so I don't want a round thread. I want something a bit flatter, so I'm going to squash it between my fingers so it's a bit flatter, and then I'm going to try and line it up so that I can see. And I have realised as I've got older how much taking the mick I do with my wife and that and my brother. My eyes are starting to go and I can't see these very easily now. So that's our needle gone through. So easy enough. I'm going to pull a bit through, I only need about that much, and then I'm going to take this long end, I'm going to pull it along the length of that needle. I'll move that out of the way, you might be able to see it a bit easier rather than on black. And then I'm just going to pierce the thread. So I'm going to pierce the thread a bit. I'm going to pull it about 1.5 centimetres, ½ inch, bit like that down. I'm going to pierce the thread again. So we've got 2 separate bits that are pierced on there. And I'm going to take that down here, grip it, and then I'm going to pull that down. And what I've done is I've caught both of them bits in there, so that needle will stay on the end of it a bit easier. Now it's two-handed, so I've got it on both ends, so this is the same piece of thread. So I'm going to wax the end again. Let's finish waxing. I'm going to grab hold of my other needle, find the hole, get my dodgy eyes out again. I'm going to flatten it. So just turning it half and half, flattening it. This one's not going to go so well because I can see that's already flared out and it's only a small hole. Find the hole, line it up, and it didn't line up. Line it up, and this one's not going to go on. Now, if you get it where it doesn't go, we can wax it a bit more. Because again, what we're doing is trying to keep them, the fibres, I think that's the word, the fibres of the thread, we want them all to stick together. So we're going to wax it a bit more. I'm then going to come back again, and we're going to squash it again. So we've got our squashed end, and it still looks a bit furry. Now I'm going to line my hole up again. And if you can just about see, that's gone through there. So we're just going to pinch that end. So we're going to pull it through again, about an inch or so. We're going to pierce that end. Not sure if I caught that. Pierce that thread. Pull it down a needle a bit. Pierce that thread again. Not sure if I got that. I think I did. Take it down towards the eye. Pull our thread through. Pull our one through on the end. And then we have 2 needles caught up. Now they will stay on there for most of the time. They will gradually come loose, normally at the most inopportune time. So that is our thread set up. I don't need that anymore, so I'm going to get rid of it because I tend to go and catch myself on it. That's the reason I've got a few cuts on my hand. That over there. Now I'm going to move that camera around and see if I can't get this somewhere where you can see what I'm doing. So we've got this back. This is our wallet again, and I'm going to start a set up here. So this is my first one. And so that's got that rivet in there, which is going to go through to the other side. So I want to start probably around about there somewhere, and I'm only going to stitch this half. Now this would be a bit of a pain, so I'm going to start with the hardest part and finish up on the easier bit. Oh, I've just put a noodle in my mouth, hence the reason I'm sounding funny. I'll put it in my clowns, but not too deep. So I haven't got too deep in, because what I don't want to do is push that all together. I want that open, deliberately want it open. So I'm going to find, just using my needle, I'm going to find that first hole that's still there. I'm going to work away through it. Now these can be a pain because the first ones aren't necessarily, so there's one there, aren't necessarily lined up. And we end up swearing. Make sure they're the right ones, because that looks at quite an angle to me. Yeah, that is right. That is where we want to be, but I want to be one more back. There we are. Got there in the end. There's a bit of thread in it, that's right. Melt that off. Get back in here again. So when you do these, don't rush with that first stitch, because you think it's there and then you might realise it's not. So we're going to check that and make sure it lines up to where I can see the mark as well, which is there. Now this is my first one, so we start at that end. I'm going to work towards me. So that needle there can go all the way through. Let's keep them separate for the time being. That's coming all the way through. I'm not fussed at the moment of how long this is. And what I'm going to use is the point of this needle to find that needle. So it's there. And when I can feel it on the end and I know I've got the hole, it means I can push it through, go through the hole that this one just come out of. I'm then going to take it. So this is a way of stitching. I'm going to bring this needle up underneath that one, grip it, pull it out. And when I pull it out, quite often it's tight. So I've got that first one, it's gripped in a T shape like that. I'm then going to pull that thread down, so I want to pull it into the stitch hole, find the same hole, and come back through it. Now this has been a bit of a funny angle, isn't it, because it's that first one. But it's there. So as I've now got it through, I want to make sure we haven't caught that thread. So I'm just going to pull it slightly towards me. If I pull it and it moves easy, then it's all good. I'm going to take this hand over the top. I'm going to let go of that thread, come back, grip the needle so my threads are all clear. Pull on that side again to make sure. Pull on this side, pull it through. Then I'm going to pull these needles up until, as it's my first stitch, I'm going to go for the halfway. So at the moment, not quite halfway. Oh, let go. I like that. Not quite halfway. I'll get there in a minute. I'll find where it's gone. There it is. Not quite halfway yet. I found something to bark at. Right. There we go. So now I've got my halfway. So this is at halfway in that thread. I've just done the first stitch. Don't need a double stitch because it's already going to be stitched all the way around, isn't it? So I'm going to come towards me, one stitch, find that hole, needle on this side, find the hole, poke it through. Sometimes it could be a bit fiddly because this is going to move. Grip it in that T shape again from underneath. Put across, find the same hole it's come out of, pull on this side, over the top, pull on that side, pull both. So again, we're going to find the hole, which is there. It's getting a bit easier now. So the needle goes through. This needle is going to find that needle, and then we're going to poke it through. Missed it. Poke it through the same hole. That's it. This is coming out of. What I'm not doing is making any fresh holes. So needle's gone through. Point away from me. Comes up underneath. Make sure I don't catch any of these threads. Comes up underneath. Grips that needle. Hold that thread. Pull it through. Pull the thread down into the hole. Other needle through. Push it over the top. Put it tight. And we can gradually, as we're going, work our way along each hole. If you've left a thread in, because it's a refurb, you'll notice because it will push the thread out. So over the top. Keep going. So that's what I'm going to carry on doing now then. So I will work my way around this until such a time as I get to where something's interesting. You can have a look. So keep going. So it's easier for us as we go, isn't it? So let's talk through it again. I'm going to find the next hole. So this would be if you'd stitch by punching holes through. So stitching by numbers, whatever. You've already got all your holes all pre-pricked. This is the sort of thing you're looking at. So your needle, this is my right hand. I don't know how that camera's going to go. So this is my right hand. I'm right-handed. This is the front. This will be the back of the leather. So this is the left hand, right hand. Found the hole, so that could be an awl. Find the needle. Point your needle through the hole. Right hand needle up underneath. Pull it out. Pull the thread down. This was what was the right hand. The left hand needle is now becoming through. Pull it tight. It goes. I'm pretty sure I confused everybody because I confused myself. So right hand through the hole, left hand, find the needle, poke the needle through, T shape, pull it tight, pull the thread down, right hand needle, what was the right hand needle still, go through the hole, pull the left hand thread over the top, pull the right hand, pull the left hand, go through. Work my way through. We can build a speed up. Through. Now at some point, let's see if I can do it deliberately, at some point you will catch a thread, and it's usually because I want to do it, it hasn't done it. It's usually because just as you poke that through, it catches the thread. Now if you do that, still hasn't done it. Oh, that's what we're pulling this one for. So if I pull that and it's caught on there, you can pull it over the edge of that needle without anything noticing. Yeah, so that's why we're doing that part. So it's an important bit not to miss it. The other thing you need to get every single time is exactly the same technique that you're using. So I'm always coming up from underneath, making that T shape, putting it through, pulling my threads down, going through, a little pull, it's going over the top. Pull them tight, and that means every single time the stitch on this side comes to the bottom of the hole, and the stitch on this side comes to the top of the hole. And if we get that, our stitching will all look consistent, and that's what your aim is. You need to be consistent. If you're doing it different, if your threads and stitches start to come out at little odd angles and things like that, it's usually something simple like that you're doing wrong. So that's all we're doing all the way through. So see there, it didn't want to go. That might have caught the thread that time. I've got both hands there. See where I've caught both needles in my fingers by mistake. So what I'm going to do is find where them threads go. So now I can get rid of one. This is the one I want, which is attached. It goes over the top. Pull it out. So if you get anything go, just keep your eye on what you're doing, watching it all of the time, being aware of where them threads are going, because that's what will cause you problems. They will get caught up, especially if they're like here, where it's a bit, because it's already hanging up and I'm stitching in this gap. So this is probably the worst part, because I'm stitching that gap, and that's when you are likely to catch something up, and then it's not going to do what you want. And we want it. See there where that thread as well has gone over the top, so it's got stuck to my hand and gone over the top. So just being aware. If you're not aware and you've gone and pulled it tight, once you've done a few more stitches, the only option you've got is to cut that stitching back out and redo it. And obviously what you want to do is only do it once. You don't want to have to re-stitch it and redo it. Anyway, I did say I was going to leave you to it for a bit, but I've carried on and I've got to almost to the end of this piece. So you can see where it's starting to push it out. I hope you can see, because I haven't got a clue where that camera's pointing. I'm just hoping it's around this bit, otherwise I'm making a video for the waste of my time. Now on here, I think it's got one more stitch on the end. I'm going to catch it there. Now these parts you have to sort of be a bit careful with, because this is a really thin one, and if I haven't, when it's machine in particular, whereas hand stitching, I'll make sure that is one full stitch. This I can see is not one full stitch, it's only about half, so I've got to be a bit careful. So there's a good one. See where I've just dropped the needle? Now what I don't know is where that needle is in relation to everything else, because I've dropped it. And if we look, hard to see again, see there where the threads are all twisted over, so that needle has actually gone in that gap. So what I need to do is make sure it goes back to where I want. So I can see there both threads have got one turn over the top and it's there. So if that happens, deal with it. What I'm going to do is drop back a stitch. Now you've got options here if I want. These should be same length, they are still the same length. What I can do is take one stitch, and I'm only going to do one side of it. So at the moment I've got this one on the right hand side, so I'm going to take that stitch back through that hole, keep hold of that same needle, and then I'm going to bring it back in this way towards me. So now what we've got on there is a double stitch, so it's just a little couple of stitches on there rather than one, just makes it a little bit stronger. Right, I'll finish this until I get the end. See you in a bit. Okie dokie, so I'm back at the last but one hole here. So this one is going to be the last of these ones, so then the next stitch here is going to start on that, catch this side and work its way back down. So this is the hole I need. I'm going to catch that, go through, make sure I haven't caught it over the top, pull it tight. You might notice one thread shorter now than the other, and that is because I managed to catch one, pull the thread and ended up having to restart it. So I've gone back that way one hole, put my needle through, pull it through. If it goes a bit tight, put a bit of wax on your fingers. There's a bit of wax over there somewhere. Still got the same, so I'm still going to pull it down, poke it through the hole. I'm going to pull it again to make sure it hasn't caught, but this time I'm not going to take it over the top, just going to allow it to sit and find its own way. This one I don't need anymore. This one I'm going to drop back one more stitch towards that way, poke it through the hole, pull it up tight, pull it through, and what I'm going to do is cut them off nice and short. I take these in my hands, twiddle them up together, because that means the needles stay together and I can find them again. Then I'm just going to, with my lighter, melt the ends of them threads that were there, and then with the back of my nail, I'm just going to push them down to keep them out of the way. So, assuming we're on the screen somewhere, that is our first line of stitching. You see, we've started over here where this rivet is, so we'll do the same there as what we've got over that side, because that's already stitched all the way through, and we haven't caught this piece. Now, the next one, ideally I'd like to stitch around here, but if I stitch these edges here, this is going to be quite tight to get to. So the next one is just going to be a single run all the way down there on that one side. And if I get to this point, and I've got quite a bit of thread, I'll carry on down and start working my way around, because that'll be the way I'm going to go. So let's set that up again, and I've redone all this stitching, different angle. We've redone all of that stitching. Now what I need to do is work my way around this outside. So I finished there last time because this was this side. I'm going to start here. I'm going to work my way along these edges, and every now and again I get a little bit which it skips. I've got a feeling I would normally miss some. Well, it does appear so it's stitched it all. It can't possibly have done, because it shouldn't fit. Let's see, there looks like stitch holes there to me, but I wouldn't normally stitch them bits, because when you fold this you need a bit of flex, and one bit should be shorter than the other. I'll figure it out. I'm probably going to miss, I don't know, I'll have a phone, I'll have a fiddle. I might have to do some full stitching just in one part and see how we get on. Right, so let's get these needles done again. So old needles, old thread, don't need that, so to take them off, find that loop at the end, see where they was a bit battered, find the loop, cut it off, find the loop, cut it off, and you should then be able to just pull that thread up and get rid of it. 2 needles, they go in my mouth, right on. 2 arms of thread, I'm going to cut that there. I'll wax it. You can grab a needle, find the eye, squash it flat, get the eyes focused, didn't fit, squash it flat a bit more, gone for a bit, just a tiny little bit, stuck to your finger. So, okay, I'll just put that down now. See there, hopefully this is on the camera, can you see where that has just caught a thread? So if I pull that through, what it would do is just bunch that thread up, and that'd be no good to me whatsoever. So it's just caught one thread, pulled it back down there. So to sort that, I've got a couple of options. First one I'm going to try, a bit more wax and flatten it. So I'm going to grip it, pull it between my fingers, wax it, and have another go. So focus on it, because I can't see it again. Line it up, didn't go through, squash it a bit flat, which is probably why it's messing about. Have another go, and it has gone through. Let's see what it does. I'm going to pull on it, and that's got it. So simple way of doing it. If it doesn't do that, just cut it off and start again. So we've got about 1 inch out there. Pull it tight, pierce the thread, do it again. Can't see me concentrating because my tongue's sticking out. If it is on the camera, apologise. Pierce the thread, I don't like that. Pierce the thread again, that's better. I'm going to pull this in almost to the end, pull that thread through, pull that one across. We should have a nice smooth one again. So let's start the other end. Find the thread. There's the end. There's the end. A bit of wax. Take the needle, find the eye, find the thread, squash it flat, line it up, poke it through. That went through straight away, pull it through, again about 1 inch on the end, pierce it, another one, pierce it, pull it all through, pull it over the end. We've got our thread with our 2 needles. Now we're going to start at this one here. The first hole is actually, I'm not sure if there's a hole there or not. There's a hole there, so that'd be my first hole I'm going to start at. That's right up next to that rivet. It might have been stitched around that rivet, but where it's worn I can't get to it. So that's going to go in my clams. I'm going to take that first one through. That's probably, oh, I thought it was going to be tighter than that. Halfway mark, knock everything flying. So coming this way towards me, so I'm going to do one hole. There's the first one, there's the hole, goes through, needle finds a point. I'm only ever looking at this side. I'm not doing this. I don't know if you can see my body moving. I'm not doing that. I'm staying facing the same way all the time. Pull the thread down, find the same hole, poke it through, pull that one tight, make sure it hasn't pinched it, pull them out, get them tight. Again, another hole towards me. So this is a lot by feel as well, because you're just trying to feel where the hole is rather than make a new hole. Now believe me, when I say make a new hole with these blunt needles, I could quite easily do that. My fingers are quite strong, and if the hole's not there and I start to push, I will push right through it and make a hole. I don't want to do that. I'm using the holes already there. That keeps the strength of this wallet, because the more holes you make in it, if you imagine like perforated paper where it's designed to tear, that's what it will do. And if you just keep going by feel, what it's like, you'll use the same holes and it go. There are times when it all messes about, but especially if something's been machine stitched over twice. There's a machine to make new holes. There's my thread. Machine to make new holes, and then you've got to figure out which holes you're going to use to keep your work that you're repairing or refurbishing in place. Now, see what we can get. See if it goes wrong this time. This has all been pretty good so far. I'm probably going to restain these edges on these as well, because they're all quite warm. Easier here with a so there, so where I can't find the hole. If you get that, just start again, poke your needle through. If you think you had it and you didn't, have another go. What you don't want to do is start leaning to the other side. It's not so bad when you've got the holes already punched in it. So that might have caught the thread there. No, it didn't. Yeah, it's not so bad when you've got holes already punched in, because the hole on the other side is already there. It's if you're using an awl and you keep changing your body position, each time you change your body position, that awl will go through at a different angle. If it goes through at a different angle, the hole on the back is going to come out at a different place. So we'll look at that in another video and do some proper hand stitching. Now, if you fancy a video on hand stitching and starting from scratch, chuck a comment in down below there, and if I get a chance I'll do one on how to hand stitch properly and where to go through, or not hand stitch properly, that's the wrong word, how traditional English saddlery hand stitching will be done. All these other versions, they all do exactly the same thing, don't they? Different people do it different ways. It'll be the way that I was taught to do it, so it'll be a two-hand saddle stitch. The thing with that is here, so like this here being hand stitched, we've got one thread that's doing that all the way along here, and another thread that's mirroring it all the way through. So whereas when I took this apart, I found one part, you know, pulled them few stitches out, and then I could pull the whole thing off. That's a way a machine stitches. That one thread stays on this side and it loops and crosses each one each time, but it stays on the same side. If it was like this, so say I got this wallet back in 10 years time or whatever and it needed redoing, if I haven't already retired, I can't be bothered, I'd have to cut every single stitch out individually, because each stitch will hold it. I have got a short, I think, on here, I'm not sure if it's on YouTube or TikTok or somewhere, of one bit stitch just basically holding something still together with the repair. Now here, there we are, one for you, it's just started going. So I can see the inner bit of this is actually pushed out a little piece. That's just caught it now. And I'm trying to line the tops up, but in actual fact it's sticking out. So that made the holes not line up very well. So see there, it doesn't want to line up. I'm trying to push them out, but I've got to grab the stitch, pull it into line. So I'm not trying to make new holes, I'm just trying to get them where they should be from that original stitching. So if I don't do that, what it'll do is I'll make a fresh hole and then something won't quite line up right, because it lined up originally, especially when they're older, because the leather stretches in different places. So if you start trying to flatten something out, you often find you make it look worse than what it is. Because what you've done is, whereas this piece is sticking up, if I push it down and make a fresh hole through there, like it's trying to do now, it will affect how it sits on the other side of that leather. So down this end of it, it will affect how that is. And then perhaps the holes down this edge won't line up, and then I'll have more problems than what I've just solved by trying to push one thing back to where I think it should be. Now we're getting close to the end. Probably one more stitch in there, I reckon. There it is. One more stitch and it doesn't want to go. Through two, now it is through the third one. So that's 3 layers of leather there, so each layer is probably mil and a half. So what we got, 1, 2, 3, maybe 5 mil, 4 mil, 5 or 4 mil of stitching that went through there. Now this bit here will be the same, because this is all going to line up until it gets to here. But we can see here as well, see where these don't line up either. See how the holes work on there. This is part you have fun with a machine stitch sometime as well. They don't necessarily, because they get to a corner, stop and then just turn. It doesn't always make a hole that's the same place apart. So quite often you end up with something a bit funny. But that is pretty good. I like this machine, but that's because I hand stitch, and that's what I like. I have got a machine, you might even be able to see it over my shoulder, buried under all the crap that I pile on top of it because I just never use it. I've used it on rugs a few times, horse rugs, but I never bother with it on anything else, and it scares the living daylights out of me because the bloody thing's so fast. It's really old, 1950 something I think it was, Singer. Probably if I used it more, and as I get older my hands start to wibble up a bit, I might start using it. If I use it more, I'll probably get a newer motor on it, replace the one it's got, put a newer one on it which has got variable speeds and things like that, and then I can slow it down to a speed that I can cope with and not frighten the living daylights out of myself. So if it keeps moving down, that's because I've got that there and I can't keep it. I don't want that there. It goes. Yeah, this part here was in my head. I'm actually, although I'm talking and waffling going on, in that bit there, I've got an idea to bring these stitches through and get it to the other side of the leather in one go. It's going to be a test, because what I don't want to do is do a little tiny bit of stitching and then start again, because I'll have to cut the threads off and redo the threads, and I don't want to do that, especially as this is quite a long piece. I could use these little bits to do that, which I might do. I might get some fresh needles out and then do some single hand or something like that in the middle there. Oh. Just get this bit done. All right. Now, got to that last bit. Now, where does this go? There must be another stitch there somewhere, so that's there. Nope. On there, and there's a hole there, so that definitely goes. I want that because that is the edge of a pocket. You probably can't see it on your side. Well, that's clever. That took some doing. That's what happens when you drop things. So that is the other side of there. Now I want to double stitch on that, so I want to come back over this side to there, through, and I want to come back through here. Now that gives me a big bit of thread like that, but two sections to stitch, both of which I've definitely got stitch holes in, because there's a hole there, there's a hole there, there's a hole there, there's a hole there. So I need to figure out how to do this, and I think I'm going to have a little play. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to use this one thread, and on this side only. So I'm going to go through the hole, if I can find it, through the hole, pull it out. So that's my first stitch. So these are just full stitches, they're not actually doing anything. Now I'm going to come one hole towards me, which is there, put it through. I'm going to keep this thread because I want this for the time being. I'm going to push it down inside, and I've gone back that way one, and as I've gone through it, I'm going to take that over the top, so it's the same as mine. So essentially what I've done is I've gone from two hand stitching to single hand stitching. Now I only need to do one more. I'll push it out and see what it comes out like. Yeah, I only need to get one more stitch in there, and then that puts me where it is. So that's one. Now I've gone, I'm not coming one hole, I'm coming two holes. So I'm not that first one, I'm going through this one here. So this is my second stitch on it. I'm going to keep that end there, pull this up tight so it's out the way, and I've gone back one stitch that way, underneath again. So now I've got one stitch that's on the inside of this bit. So I'll keep it over here. I'm going to do a reverse now, so this side here is exactly the same. I'm going to come one stitch towards me, so that gives me my first stitch. One more, put me over there. I'm going to keep these threads, not that thread, these threads up. I reckon they just machine stitched all of this. I'm going to take that one over the top, because I'm doing it backwards. And come one more this way, which is there. Now, back through here. I'm sure I haven't caught everything because I think I've caught something there. Back through here, and now my next stitch should be the one that I need on there, which would be the same as the one on this side. Now I need to think about these, because what I want to do is get a stitch on the outside. At the moment they're both coming up the inside, but I need them on the outside to come in. So if I go from that one through there, that puts me on the outside on this side, and then if I go from that one through there, that puts me on the outside of both. Now if I go back in here, I should be able to come one more. It's no big, oh, can't see that. There. And one there. One there. Just have a quick look. Not too sure about that. Over the top, let's have a pull tight so it does. I can always cut it if it didn't work. One there. So we have a single stitch all the way through, and a single stitch all the way through, back into two hand stitching all the way down to there. Right, let's carry that on. So we've stitched it, the very last stitch was there. So to finish up our stitching, we're just going to do our standard finish. So we're going to go back one stitch, which is that one there. These are always going to be a little bit tighter because the thread's in there, but I still need to find the same hole. There it is. It's going slightly uphill. Needle goes through. Again, we're still going to make that T shape. Pull that out. If it sticks a bit, wax your fingers maybe. Pull it with some pliers if you have to. Make sure it's not caught. We're going to pull there, pull there. Now what we need to get is that top stitch just pulled a little bit loose. But if we haven't crossed in threads, we should be able to pull that out. Now this is where I tend to break things because I get a little bit carried away. It's the top stitch as well, which is where it opens. So I'm going to put two of these in. So you can do one, you can do two. It doesn't matter as such. You normally finish the same way I started as in this case because they're following on. Now that one is a little bit tighter still. Take that thread again, cross it, poke it through again. There we are. I haven't taken that over the top because I want the threads underneath, even though I just did. I want the threads underneath this time. Nice one through. Now I can either leave a thread either side, or this is the inside of the wallet, that's the outside. So I'm going to put one stitch further back. So I've gone back one more hole, pull it through, pull it up tight, grab my threads, a little bit of a twist on them so I can keep my fingers, cut them ends off. Nice and close, don't have to be spot on close, but near enough. I'm going to take that thread and attend to twist them up. Once I've got them twisted up, they can stay there, which means my needles stay together and are easier to find and I can get rid of them. Finishing this then, nice two stitches there. There's a little bit of thread sticking out, so I'm just going to get my lighter, hold it near. As the threads melt away, I'm going to push it down with the back of my fingernail. So I'm using the flat part of my fingernail. Don't use your fingers and that. But I just want to push them in. So we should have, get rid of them clams. I think that was the last lot. So we've got stitched all the way around out there, up to that rivet. We've gone both sides all the way through there, all the way along the bottom. We've got our little bit there, which is, see where it folds in? That's where that wasn't smaller than the outer edge. That's going to have to stay there. Stitched all the way down there, stitched down there, stitched all the way up here, full stitching around there. Now you can, this is quite thick, you can feel this. I'm going to stop you giving that a little tap with a hammer. So we can tap down there and it taps all that stitching in. So that's what we're going to do. It just gets rid of that little bulge on it. So all we want It's a small hammer, doesn't matter really what it is. What it needs to make sure is that end is nice and smooth, because anything you put on there will go on here. And then all we're going to do is have a little tap down. So I'm tapping on that back one at the moment on its own, and then we're going to have this side here, this one here. So there, we work our way around a little bit harder there, because that's 3 layers. That's 3 layers. I'm going to miss that bit in the middle. And what that's done is just push them stitches into the leather a little bit. It just makes it feel a bit smoother. Now, that's our main wallet. It will shut like that, won't it? So the logo's on the front there. You can just possibly see it. I'm not sure if you can or not, but you can possibly see that. We've got a billfold bit there. You've got a card pocket that's there, card pocket there, and another, not going to be a full card pocket because then press studs go through it. Are there. Why is that cable getting in the way? That is our wallet. I'm not sure what that is there. Let's just burn that out. Probably an old thread that's just sticking through. Yeah, old thread just pushing out there. Let's give that a clout right on that rivet. One of the reasons why you have a proper look round all these things. Now, the edges. These could probably do with a little bit of a tidy up across there. Purely for the fact where I cut apart and it starts to wear, they do start to open up. These edges aren't too bad. They're all right. But these ones here could just do with a little buff down. So we're going to find something we can do it with.